Welcome to the Living Spiritfully podcast, Heart to Heart edition. Here's your host for today, Paul Galloro.
Welcome to Heart, the Living Spiritfully podcast. I'm your host, Paul Galloro, and I'm so thrilled for today's guests because I met these two men on my journey in Spain in June this year. Instant connection, fell in love, and I am truly fascinated by what these guys are doing. They're known as the Hotel Guys. We've got Rich and Paul. Rich is a retired public school teacher with 33 years experience in education. He raised a family and then traveled through the world during his summer breaks. And now, as the Hotel Guys visionary, he and his husband, Paul, of 11 years, travel as much as possible. And then Paul, well, he is loving the travel life. He aspired to be a full-time travel retirement since his mid-20s, but he's doing it now and is passionate about healthy living and has worked in natural food sales. He's passionate about communications and web stuff and has also worked in Silicon Valley. And now he and Rich are traveling the globe, and Paul is taking care of all of the digital duties of Hotel Guys. You guys, I mean, I'm so fascinated by this journey that you're on and what you're doing. First and foremost, I want to say I love you both. Welcome to Heart to Heart.
Thank you. So good to see you again.
It's great to see you guys. I mean, I wish we were hugging. I wish we were traipsing around the pool. But here we are. Now, you guys are in Greece. Now, here's the thing. You're traveling the globe and your internet isn't the strongest right now. So we're going to have this conversation. I just wanted the world to see your beautiful faces. We can see each other here. But we're going to turn off our video for this conversation. So that we can have this free-flowing heart-to-heart. So, boys, when you're ready, we'll turn off our cams, but we'll come back to see each other before we close off the show.
Okay.
So, you guys, first of all,
good idea.
Yeah. So first of all, I mean, the universe brought us together. We were at a retreat together just outside of Barcelona at the end of June, which was transformational for me and just like life-changing. But the three of us all connected over different things. Now, Paul, you and I connected over metaphysics. There's a lot of things that we talked about, but then also things that you shared with me after the fact that is just so super fascinating. And Rich, you and I just connected over like, A, we're Leos, and B, just, I mean, life and energy and everything. So why don't you guys tell the listeners what you've been up to? You've been traveling the globe since, was it October of 22?
Yeah, after COVID, we opted to kind of structure our Portland, Oregon-based life to be able to just be away for a couple of years. And in the 5 or so years before COVID, we were traveling 6 or up to 1 year, 9 months at a time, and then home generally for a chunk. And this time we decided to go for 2 years.
Well, for me, Paul, it was like, as soon as the COVID kind of started to let up, I was down in Zipolite, Oaxaca, Mexico. And my heart just heard it loud and clear that I'm not meant to be this retired teacher just gardening in my neighborhood, which, by the way, I'm really good. COVID really allowed me to spend a lot of cash at my favorite nurseries. But the voice was like, you need to be out in the world. You have this heart that is, simply put, it just needs to be free and fearless.
Right. So, I mean, it was a bold move to see that living outside the United States right now for us, where we are in our life journey, is actually cheaper. We can remove a lot of things from our expense and put all those things toward travel. So we have rented out our house.
Fortunately, to the same beautiful
wonderful
brother
friend of ours
is there,
and so it's kind of like, when your house is rented, there's really nowhere to go, when to go home. So So we're on the road, and we started this particular journey in Asia, and then we spent the early spring in northern South America, first time visits for us to Ecuador and Colombia. And then we opted to go do a tour of Egypt. And so we used sort of Europe as a follow-up summer kind of thing. And that's where early in that post our Egypt, we spent 3 weeks in Egypt and Jordan. And then we met you on the coast of Spain.
5 days,
And-
probably 8 or so days after we returned from Jordan and Egypt. So
Mhm.
We're
it
still in
was
recovery from
straight
that.
out of that totally life-changing experience for both of us in Egypt. And we needed stitches to kind of, I don't know, just sort
Decompress.
out what happened
Yeah.
and get rested up before the week-long retreat where we met you along with 10 other beautiful men,
Yeah.
11 men.
Mhm.
So we name each of our trips. And so this one, just for fun, and it's kind of a concept, the one right before COVID, we named the Heart to Heart Tour, which is apropos
What?
for your,
Podcast.
yeah.
Wow,
So it's
look at
just like
that.
the
I love
idea
it.
of kind of just spreading our, spreading our curiosity and joy and
And our hearts.
finding light and love and sharing light and love.
Well,
and
so many people don't hug really heart to heart. Like instantly when I met you, Paul, we just kind of like crashed in naturally. But
Yeah.
as we traveled to India in particular, that second trip, that was, the tour Heart to Heart. And we taught, I don't know, hundreds of people this new way of a deeper heart connection.
Mm.
And that's
yeah,
what it is.
and actually, India is a good one to mention because that also, before Egypt, was one that really rocked us to the really core of our
Totally.
beings. And
we could
from-
not stop talking
and,
about India.
and from that trip, we just took on a newfound curiosity. We have a couple of like broad themes that we invoke in our travel planning and execution and just enjoyment. And one of those things is seeking out the study of and our interest in archaeological ruins from even antediluvian times. So like how far back can we go? And India gave us a sense of just ancient civilization in a way that North America doesn't deliver in the current century.
So it's funny because when we returned back to the States as COVID was unfolding and shutting things down, I'll never forget Paul's like, I just have a big question. Where did those people come from?
Yeah.
And over months and months, I kept watching the piles of books on our quote shared large office desk. And it got to the point where
like,
I could
come
hardly
up.
see him. He
Come
was
up.
reading and it would like be another thread of, okay, now this is of interest. And so it really led up to, and we
Right.
both love, ancient ruins and we love museums and, we're the hotel guys that stay in museums probably longer than most tourists do.
Although we stay in that clothing optional nature's
Oh, no,
places
that's
a little
another
bit
story.
longer. But that's another one of our interests is
Yeah.
clothing optional resorts. And we've enjoyed some of those in Europe, which is great.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to get back to was that the name of this particular tour is the Discover Tour. And it was, so that was where kind of all roads on my inquiries into India led to Egypt. It seems like a lot of people are being drawn to that particular old civilization as we have. I mean, it's amazing. It's like the ancient world.
So yes, I was out at our naked beach in Portland and Paul sends me a message, you want to go to Egypt? I've got a perfect tour. And so I was like, okay, who is it and who's leading it?
So our 2 year of travel this time around, starting last October, is to discover a lot of new places because we spent a lot of time traveling in those 4 month, 6 month, 9 month long trips. In Asia, we've been other places, Central America, but there were a lot of like spots in the world that maybe we'd never been to together, like Europe. We've both been here before several times, but we'd never been here together in our, we actually have been together now for 16 years.
Yeah.
And so, Europe was on the list. When we leave here in Greece, we go to Turkey and we'll be exposing, actually we're doing another archaeology tour. And then
Wow.
out to the far east side of the country and the Göbekli Tepe and Greater Armenia, and just delving into those old cultures, as well as the big city life of Istanbul. We'll spend some time in. But then from there, we go to Peru and we do a whole winter in South America, including
Yeah.
including Uruguay and Argentina and Brazil.
Are you
Wow.
exhausted yet, Paul?
I mean, I'm excited
Seriously,
and a little exhausted. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I want to kind of circle back to Egypt because I mean that was Rich. I remember the conversation that you and I had. Our first one was you were sharing a lot about what had happened in your journey, on your journey in Egypt. Now, I remember as a child being fascinated by Egypt. I remember in grade 5 specifically, we had this one study project that we were doing as a class on Egypt, and we read books about Nefertiti, and we just different. I don't know. I just always thought it was fascinating. The pyramids were always fascinating to me, even at a young age. So tell me a little bit about like that experience of being in Egypt, going to the
Well,
pyramids, doing all that stuff.
Sure. Well, I think what I would say is that we sold our car to go on that trip.
Wow.
So
seriously, we did.
I mean, our buckets aren't bottomless, but I mean, we have some resources, but that was sort of like a next level splurge for us. But we
Yeah.
both really felt like, as a gay couple particularly, that we better not,
Travel by group.
yeah, we didn't have to do it that way, but we just thought that it would be a great way to immerse ourselves in a lot in a very efficient amount of time. Because like when we were traveling around India, we were mostly on our own, you know, sometimes taxis, sometimes trains, sometimes cars, airplanes. But for Egypt, it's just a like next level sort of travel challenge.
We were in parts of Egypt that, as the tour leader told me on the side, he's like, you know, this is the region where only 1 out of 100 tour buses go into. And so, you know, that did lend us that opportunity to just do Upper Egypt, Lower Egypt, Middle Egypt,
Alexandria.
And so it was, you know, those places, I don't know, it wasn't just me, but many times they literally would suck the breath out of me, and very interesting things would just happen that don't ordinarily happen to this guy. And yet many people reported, in particular when we all on our last night together went into the grand pyramid of it all, of, you know, Giza Plateau.
Yeah, and the Great Pyramid.
The stories of people just remembering things from a long time ago. So it's a powerful place.
Yeah, and you know, we're of the belief that we didn't have to fully understand everything about everywhere. Exposing ourselves to these ancient, powerful spots, energetically powerful, subtly energetically powerful spots.
With a PhD, 2 leaders
on the earth
from the States, and one an Egyptologist in Cairo joined us. So it was like very educational.
And the experiences that we had there, you know, the mundane and the whatever, everything else, you know,
the rapid moving tour.
It's going to take, just like our time with the tantric retreat in Spain. We know that there's a period of time after the fact that we unpack, and you know, we've described that trip as, you know, as with some of our India travel, you know, it continues to deliver to us. We have an intimacy with Dendera. We have an intimacy with Luxor. And as we continue to dig into our own self-realization, which we do actively, these places inform us in the present. And, you know, we're even thinking about going back and doing we met a Dutch woman, so kind of maybe a topic for another time, but to go back and do an in-depth return that's more spiritually focused. This was very much straight up archaeological. dominant narrative archaeologist, Egyptian, amazing storyteller, amazing scholar, but dominant narrative, with a geologist from an East Coast university. That all has its place. And there is another level and layer and reflection and dimension to explore in these places. And it's that subtlety that you feel when you're at those power spots, because there's a reason that they were there. They're thousands, many of them are thousands and thousands of years old. And we have coalesced as humanity into these places and created them as sacred. And like a water washes over a beach, it's been one civilization that came in with a dominant set of concepts, and then another one came in, and then the climate changed and the northern Africa dried out and people came into the Nile Valley. And now we have 2500 BC and what we think of as, you know, the beginning of Egypt. But our contention, and the contention of many, many people, is that there's a parallel, deeper, dominant story narrative about who we are, what the hell is going on. Talk about answering the question in India about who are these people and where did they come from?
Right.
You know, like modern genetic studies can only teach us so much. We have to learn, we have to go within ourselves and figure out the rest, for whatever that is for ourselves. And that's what we're doing, in addition to the mundane Greek island, this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously Egypt is an amazing place to just shoot photos and video, which I'm really proud of myself, because at our Facebook page, I'm trying to catch up. So we have at hotelguys.com, no, it's actually Global Hotel Guys on Facebook, all of the Egypt posts. And again, when I was working on those, and again, Wi-Fi has been marginal, but many of those photos that I would see and make decisions about, do I share these or not? I would literally get the air pulled out of me. They would give me shivers. And I don't understand everything. I met Sekhmet. She's a lovely goddess that literally put me on my knees.
Wow.
And the other little side story is in a very remote temple we observed 3 men, and we made up a story that they were in a rock band from Texas. But I was just drawn to this one man, and his name's Mark. And I finally had a conversation, and I asked him if this was his first visit. And they're German, and they have done several pilgrimages into Egypt. They completed a 3-day fast and went into Luxor Temple. And he had said, well, if you think of what you had just happened, wait until you get there. And he said, the other thing is, like, this is now our opportunity to really go back and share our experiences and our stories, and how that mystery called Egypt is like all about now opening our hearts and sharing our hearts. And it was like, now I know why I was drawn to that man. It was, again, a reminder of really keeping my heart open. And I wasn't going into, anticipate anything super moving and spiritual happening. So I just knew after I heard that the message is really for people like you in 5th grade. And as a teacher, I remember all of this Egypt stuff myself. And I meet so many people that say the same thing, that they're drawn to it. And I don't know, if not now, when. That's what goes off in my head. And like Paul had said, we're thinking about returning and doing this workshop. The Grand Egyptian Museum is apparently 70% loaded with the big pieces
in Cairo,
Wow.
Just on the Giza Plaza itself. So that's like a whole new experience to go back into Cairo just to see this monstrous museum that I think started in 20 years ago.
Well, I don't think quite that long, but
pretty close.
but not yet, because we have some other places to see first. And a variation on a theme will be in Machu Picchu in October. Is it October?
Yes, and our friends said, wait until you get there.
Yeah, for first time, I'm sure some of your listeners have been there and are, hopefully
They're not even,
yeah.
I had an
But,
experience.
and then we plan to be in Easter Island in March. And, for us, this is all part of that. How far back can we imagine? How much do we want to pay attention to the details about what's been, and as the explosion in the information of all fields, I believe that these fields, history, archaeology, genetics, quantum physics, and many other sort of related fields are all kind of like, I don't know, on steroids. There's so much knowledge about everything that is emerging right now
with technology. I mean, the professor, Dr. Schock, who was with us, had been around the Sphinx, and really he and other men who did some sort of under earth
LiDAR,
scanning.
Low radiation area. This is how they found, you may have seen in the news recently, in the Amazon, I guess on the Brazil side, that they find with this LiDAR technology now. It's developed by the US military.
So there's that thinking that there is this other chamber down below, kind of, I don't know, let's say at the left paw of the Sphinx.
Of the Sphinx
and
in
it's
Egypt.
and they I don't know, people speculate all sorts of things, that maybe that room has all sorts of new information.
That could be, and it's that they don't think there is there. No, there is a void, as there are voids in the pyramid. And you want to go esoterica, there's a belief that as we uncover these additional voids that have been discovered in the Great Pyramid, that they actually relate in a sort of fractal, as above, so below kind of concept to even our human chakras. And it really comes back to, like, what can we imagine? What can we imagine for our world? We could, with we're on a heart to heart sort of podcast, and our hearts can lead the way. There's, it's not just all about our brains. And that's why the Spain thing was all about, because I'm very heady, but it's all about getting into your body too, and seeing that the heart leads the way to a new world. And we don't have to, we don't personally ascribe. We're up on all the news and everything, but I don't go down the road of, the world is in a bad place. Hey, words have power, and my words are going to be different. My words are creating a light and love and humanity-based reality.
Ooh. Ooh. What do you think, Paul? I'm with it. You want to join us?
First of all, that right there just blew my mind and opened my heart, because that resonates with me so much. But guys, you just said so many wonderful things. One thing I do want to circle back to, Paul, when you said, you talked about the intimacy that you have with some of these places. Can you dive into that a little bit more? Describe this intimacy to me. What does it feel like? What's that relationship?
Well, it's funny, because that is a very honest and sort of evokes kind of an intellectual answer. And I think that part of the response is it's not intellectual at all. So it's easy to talk about, how there's I'm not going to be able to remember the name of it. There's a new book on history. I was reading it at home before we left, but it was 800 pages and I didn't dare bring it with me. But it talks about, I think I forgot what it was that it talked about, but there is I lost my train of thought, which happens.
That's okay. It happens to me all the time.
I can't fill in on this one.
Well, no, it usually comes back. So, but no, it's about that. It's not an intellectual answer to your question. It really is that we don't even have to understand. I kind of feel like we got so ridiculously activated in so many spiritual places that we went to in India. We didn't even understand it. It's Hinduism is one of the dominant religions there. There are others that we also appreciated, but Hinduism's complicated, and it would be like, Shiva. It took us a while to get our heads wrapped around it, and and there's different expression of how they're worshipped. But for me, it's really about being open to the universe and kind of like a higher sort of, I'm not really good at this, but kind of trying to connect with a higher sense of yourself. Some people call that your higher self. Some people might call it guardian angels. I think what it is being intimately honest with yourself about what the hell is going on in your life.
Well, and what, and I'm going to jump in because I just immediately think of the places and the wonderful experiences we've had. And yet I always come back to the faces of people who somehow, if it was just on a scooter, you would immediately make eye contact and off they would go. It's like we're seeing each other.
Right.
It's the heart. Really, it is. Those people are kind of more awake, and we see each other.
You're sharing information with each other, and you don't have to understand it all.
And it doesn't have to be words. That's the thing. It's like I try to explain what my experience was in some of my flashback experiences in a very strange pyramid, but it's like I don't have words to even wrap around it, but I have connection now with a few people that were on that tour that I needed to kind of help work this whole out of body kind of experience with. And I will never forget those people, like the people that we would connect with in all of our travels, especially as the hotel guys. We're often staying a little bit longer in places. And, we have accumulated so many beautiful friends as a result of, this worldwide kind of check out the old history on the planet, and along with it comes the benefits of friendships and new loves that we meet. And so that's the same thing that happened with that group of us doing the Eros medicine workshop. It's like slowing down, really being present. And it's called retirement as well. I'm that, so.
Well, I mean, you guys, it sounds like you certainly are enjoying this retirement thing, and you're making me very excited for it. But so you're currently in Greece. You're making your way to parts of Turkey and then over to South America again. Like, and I also heard you say, you're just drawn to these places that are like activating things within you. So kind of reflecting back on where you've been so far, what's one of the most mind-blowing or in this conversation, heart-opening experience that you have? Do you have something that you can speak to, like break down a moment that happened?
Well, I can jump in quickly and give Paul a chance to talk. Well, I mean, we love Chiang Mai up north in Thailand, and we've been there now 3 times. So our last journey was, October, November, and Buddhas are everywhere. I mean, it's like per capita, the Buddhist temples are magnificent in Chiang Mai. And there was one very close to the Sri Lana Hotel within the city old walls, which we love staying in. And it was just a short walk. And I would go, even though I'd photographed them a few years before, it was like walking back into the whole place brand new.
Wow.
And so I sat down inside this temple, and Buddha was huge, and he looked right at me. I swear to God, those eyes just dropped down at me. And that really tripped me out. And the message was, I'm the Buddha and you are Buddha. And I'd go back, I would hear chanting. The place vibrates for me like that. So that was one,
Okay,
you
I've got
know,
one.
Zipolite, Oaxaca was another one, and now it's Paul's turn.
Well, it's funny. I don't have any. One of my first thought was Cambodia and Siem Reap when we were there. Gosh, it was about 8 years ago, I think. And because we've talked about going back there, now that we've been to a few other places, Siem Reap was one of the very first places that we went that was kind of on that, if you will, kind of that A list of really old, intriguing places.
Yeah.
Now there's so many that the list is long, and there's new ones that have been added even.
Yeah, I mean, just to imagine, say 1 million
But-
people living there and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden having to leave.
But what I want to mention is Myanmar. And we happened to we went to Myanmar 2 times. And, we don't hear very much about Myanmar. The New York Times does stories periodically about it, but the people there are really suffering. And we just happened to make 2 trips there in the last half a dozen years. And the last trip was right before the military did their coup and sort of created this terrible civil war. And the people are really suffering there. And
Severely.
It's kind of a strange way to answer your question about that, other than the fact that it's an exceedingly spiritual culture with some of the deepest roots of Buddhism in Southeast Asia. In addition to places like Northern Thailand, right adjacent country. But Myanmar is a magical place that is reminding me that, well, I mean, it goes without saying that we do not, well, I don't want it to go without us saying that we do not take all of this for granted, that we have a passport that lets us go almost anywhere we want. Maybe there's a few places we don't want to go, like Russia, and probably right now China, even though we've just been there before. But we can go to a place like Myanmar with our privilege, and we can see that it's an extraordinary culture that we can learn a lot from, but it also is sort of representative of something very kind of 21st century, because there's a dark force. It's basically a drug cartel military that's just a criminal operation that's sucking the life out of the people in that country.
Yeah, they're hunting them down currently.
And just to see the perseverance of how we know that that religion through all of the millennia,
and the leadership up and down.
they have kept a sort of a flame of light still illuminated. And so I think that it's important. It's fun to talk about the flashy, fun places. But in my mind, the way I would answer your question is I would go to the deepest, darkest, most troubled place that I can think of in the earth and on earth. And that's where I think that I want to focus. I want to beam crystal white light energy into the hearts of the people in the military there. And into the people who think that they have to go along with that way of thinking. They don't have to. You don't have to do democracy. You don't have to do it our way, but there's a better way to let those people live a decent and honest life. And right now, so many people they represent all over the world are having the same experience. People are really struggling. We know that, we see it. And what the hell, let's do something about it.
I love that you said you kind of imagine or you go into these places and bring that healing energy. Because as somebody, like, I resonate with that because I'm not always the person that can do something like physically. I'm not an activist. I'm not somebody that can go out and do that sort of work. But what I can do is, for lack of a better word, pray or bring in that energy so that the person that needs to make the changes there can do it, or the hearts will open or the minds will open that will create that shift. I think it is possible to start at an energetic level like that and kind of usher it along for then the physical world to catch up with it.
Well, and I also think that we are uniquely positioned as gay men, and hopefully we have honed a high degree of showing up in our authenticity And that what we really can offer, I don't necessarily think like I'm going in like Mother Teresa with my energy.
Right.
But what I am doing is that I'm showing up authentically, because maybe I have something to learn there, probably, if I'm
Yeah.
smart. But I know that I have something, I have something to give there, but I know that I have something to learn there as well. So I go in authentic, honest, and open, and that's the best that I can do. And I think if I do that, it starts to kind of like turbocharge, or to sort of spark the plug for just a love expression. And let the rest happen. We don't have to figure it all out. You don't have to be an activist.
Yeah, thank you. And I love what you said there. Just like kind of let it all happen, let it figure itself out. If we align with the divine intelligence of our understanding, which like I see it as an energy that is organized, self-organizing and self-correcting. If we're off course, bringing that energy in will help align us with the right path. So it does, like you said, figure itself out.
Totally.
Right. And we are very happy to be out on a limb and sort of open to esoteric knowledge. But I take a lot of comfort in also studying a lot of science, and particularly as a non-scientist, quantum physics, and the people that are talking about sacred geometry these days. And there's a basic kind of almost computerized sort of mathematical quantum set of revelations that we have every reason to try to integrate into our way of thinking, that are really in some ways the exact opposite of what one might perceive of as sort of that far out esoteric, just sit down, pray, eat, pray, love, whatever. This is what modern science is showing us. This is not necessarily a repudiation, but sort of like a parallel track with Newtonian physics. And we have a lot to learn from it.
Yes.
I always say those boxes are meant to be shattered. And once you let those thoughts out of that box, whatever the formula that they use to teach us, always the unknown. Whenever we walk into any new place, it's like unknown. And I really feel like at our ages, and I just turned 71, Paul will be 64. It's like this vibrates new brain cells. And I like to think just throughout our bodies, and that our hearts do radiate an energetic in gratitude as we try to leave a small footprint from place to place.
Right.
Sounds good, Rich. I'm coming with you.
Yes. Continue on. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that on your website. So everyone that's listening knows to go to the show's notes. They're going to see how they can connect with you guys. But I love how at the top there, you've got your current itinerary. And as I'm looking at it, at what you've got coming up in August, September, and beyond, what I love is that there's points where you guys like spend a lot of time in one place. Like you're in Turkey for yeah, I love that, because so last time I really did a big kind of chunk of time on the road was when I was in Italy. I was there for 6 weeks. 3 of those weeks I spent in Puglia. And everyone was like, "Oh, you know what? You should go see other." Oh, I love Puglia as my new favorite part of Italy, especially Lecce is one of my favorite cities.
We were there. We were just there.
Yes. Oh my God.
Isn't it amazing?
You were saying that other people were suggesting.
Yeah.
Well, other people were like, "Oh, you're still there. Like, why don't you go see other parts?" I'm like, no, I just want to kind of luxuriate in each one, because I find I get to know a place best when I'm there for a while.
Yes.
Like, yes, I can see things, but I want to feel things while I'm there. So I love that you guys are taking your time going around this globe.
Yeah, we're trying to. I mean, that's one of the luxuries that we have right now is time. And so, not not to have a place to go home, after 9 months, not getting tired of living out of our
10 months
suitcase.
now, I believe.
Yeah, but I mean, in our previously, the longest trip we
Right.
ever did before, so we were like double plus double or nothing. Let's just see if we can stay out. And, some people think, I mean, I've had friends tell me when I explain to them, hey, I'm so excited I'm doing this. And they're like, oh my God, that sounds horrible.
I know if I was gone 2 weeks or longer from my house, I would not be able to handle it.
So I said, well,
Oh.
hey, I'm going to assume that doesn't mean that you're not supporting me.
It's
Yeah.
so easy. It's so easy, and there are ways to do it. And I really
we're gonna
encourage
be
people to do just what we're doing.
Well, and what you saw there was that we took an Airbnb apartment in Buenos Aires for the month of December, which is our least favorite travel month. And it's called the Duck and Cover month.
And that started in India. We swear to God, we would never.
And it also, prices go up. So what we always do is we settle in somewhere around the 8th of December, and we try to take a month where we can maybe get 30% off on a month-long stay. Let all, because the whole world, no matter what their religion is, we were just in Malaysia, they've got like Christmas decorations everywhere. It's a Buddhist, it's a Muslim country.
Yeah.
Wow. So, so then we're going to do right after that, right on the heels of that month in Buenos Aires, we're going to do a month at a naturist beach.
A large beach.
Airbnb again for another month. And that'll take us to early February. And then we discovered a wonderful, sort of very gay-friendly celebration of Mardi Gras in southern Brazil that there's a direct flight from Montevideo, Uruguay. So we're going to go up there and do that. And then before long, we'll be in Asia.
Yeah, so, meet us in Brazil.
Yeah, why don't you come down to Florianopolis?
Well, I've never heard of this place, but I'm definitely now, because you guys are going to be there, I'm going to go Google it and see, because that sounds like fun.
And it's not like it's maybe right sized for us too in our age. Plus, we're not really night people.
Well, and I have a friend, on Instagram who said, "Oh no, don't go there. Come to Sao Paulo." And it's like, okay, that's a huge,
with like 145 million people or whatever.
City.
It's like 18 million.
And this whole event looks like a lot of fun. But someone in your age group, Paul, you could stay out really late. Like one parade, I think, starts at 4 a.m. I'm like, oh my God, the old guys.
I'm sure we'll miss some.
We'll just take in some of the day activities, probably.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely going to need a disco nap for 4 a.m.
Oh gosh.
Exactly.
So where are you off to next?
Well, right now I'm staying at home in Canada, but I think, did I tell you guys this? When I was in Spain, I was supposed to head over to Italy. Remember, I didn't make it there. While we were on retreat, actually, there was a day, I think it was in the middle somewhere, where I woke up from a dream, and the dream said that I would be going to Italy in November. And so when I woke up, I felt at peace. I wasn't upset that I wasn't good, because I ended up coming home early because it was a lot on my nervous system, a lot on like my energy body, that the thought of going to another country, sitting in an airport, it freaked out my nervous system, that I was like, I want to go home and ground. So that's why I didn't make it to Italy. So I feel like that's coming. But other than that, I don't have anything like really planned yet, but I'm not a planner. Like, I'm looking at you guys planning up until, oh my gosh, your website goes to April 25, end of 24. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing.
We just bought a
weekend.
ticket.
Yeah.
Well,
that's hilarious. Well, I always say Paul's kind of like this, I don't know, 80s, 90s travel agent guy, which he really didn't do that work. But...
So, there is something to be said about like just going with the flow. However, when you want to go to certain parts of the world at certain times of the year, you kind of have to scope out how that's going to work. And so it becomes sort of like a loosely like Bali in April, because north of the equator in Asia, the weather's typically monsoon-ish in a lot of places, not everywhere. So we just bought a ticket from Osaka, an airplane ticket that sort of like is a stake in the sand, an airplane ticket. We know we'll be leaving Osaka on this date, and we arrive Bali, and we hope to stay about 6 weeks. We'll figure out the rest of it later, it'll like fill in around it.
Right.
And So that's kind of how we approach it. It may seem a little bit crazy, but some of that is, like we tried to go to Easter Island at the beginning of our time in South America, and I figured out that the flights were all messed up, and it wasn't quite season yet. So we're doing it in March, and it'll be a little bit better. It might be near the end.
Yeah.
So that you have to take all that into consideration. And I always say, thankfully, the planet's not any bigger, because we can kind of see that it would be a 2-year rotation to go back to our very favorites of favorites.
Well,
Right.
I mean, we have had a delightful summer, especially on the Italian trains. I mean, we just moved around just beautifully. And, we toured where Paul's great grandfather hails from in Calabria. And so it's like all going by train also slows things down. And it's the same when we arrived in Athens. We picked the most lovely place called Sweet Home Hotel. And there are 3 women at this hotel that just exude loving Greek mama energy that, are weird. We'd traveled by boat and then by bus, and we get to Athens and it was like, oh, we're home, and we just got treated so well. So it's like that, and the people we connect with, that you're just forever grateful, and you just cheer them on. They're fabulous people.
And thank you for that, because one of my questions was going to be like, how do you ground or find home when you're on the road? Because I know for me, like with our experience at the my experience at the retreat we were on, also, in 2018, I traveled the world for 3 months, so I was away from my home for that long. But there got to a point where I was like, okay, I know I've got, X amount of weeks on the road still, but I feel in my body that I just need to be in my own space where I can ground, where I can, sleep in my bed. But it's not just those physical things. It's like that inside thing, kind of feeling at home inside. But it sounds like you found something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's odd little things that, we might pack. We have a lovely string of prayer flags that I picked up in Chiang Mai months ago. Just little objects that kind of ground us and help just center us.
Well, part of the whole hotel guy shtick from the very beginning was that we always, if it was, of course, called for and invited, we rearranged the rooms. And we once put the sitting area in the bedroom, and the bedroom in the sitting area, and then called the front desk to come look at it.
And they loved it.
And but you don't do that everywhere. But
right,
and that's extreme. But we travel with little, like, we have a light blanket, which is a small thing. But the one thing that really helps to make that work from the get-go is we don't get tired of living out of our suitcases.
No,
right.
No. And we kind of like, when it's time to pack up, we're just like little robots, and we know exactly how to put it back together. And we're literally, excited, obviously, because we're walking into something new. And, Paul does a lot of all the logistics with ticket purchases, and he's a master. And then every now and then there might be a hotel, and I'll go, okay, let me see. And then I'll go on a search. And so, we just find places like, a kitchen for us is important occasionally. And so, this stretch here on this little Greek island, Antiparos, is like a lovely kitchen apartment. And so we can eat and just feel grounded with more of kind of the food we would ordinarily eat at breakfast. Because most hotels will like get out of the kitchen by 10 a.m. It's like 7 to 10. And we intermittent fast when we're home. And so many times noon is more like our feeding schedule. So that helps to have a space, and Airbnbs obviously, provide a variety of experiences. So that's
doing
important.
Doing our own cooking can be very grounding, and that I think we don't always appreciate. how much that really goes toward our mental health on the road.
Yeah, and eating better maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, okay, I want to ask you one more question about travel, and then we'll get into our lightning round of questions. So this next question, because to me now you guys are professional, I mean, you are professional travelers. You've been doing it for so long. But with this long stretch, what is something that you think anybody who's traveling needs to know, whether it's like a thing to pack or a thing to remember when you get to places? Like what's the hot tip that you have for people that are wanting to get out and explore the world again?
Wow. Well, I overpacked my deodorant soap, so don't overdo it on how many parts you think you need. Oh my God, I still have 3 more.
Yeah, I have one in my. We
That's
really don't have
hilarious.
a problem, by the way. So,
Oh my God.
gosh, I mean, one thing, so we put these, these stakes in the ground as far as like buying an airplane ticket and kind of create an outline of our hotels. But then around that, we make our reservations very often. And we've been using booking.com a lot.
Yeah.
And we always do it so that we can change our mind. So there's a cancellation, if we have to either buy it non-refundable for some set of reasons, or like in the case of Airbnb, you really are making the decision to go to Buenos Aires for that month.
Right.
But it's kind of nice to give yourself a little wiggle room. Like we just were in Ecuador for 5 weeks and we structured 4 weeks and we left the 5th one empty at the end. And we ended up going back to our favorite place, which happened to be a gay, straight friendly, gay owned clothing optional pool in a really sweet little area of coastal Ecuador.
And beautiful managers.
Which you can find on our website.
These women are fabulous.
And
so yeah, I mean,
so building in enough flexibility so that you don't feel completely hamstrung by what you decided 4 or 6 months ago, in the planning of things.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I love that idea.
So that's one thing, but most people aren't going it with such a long form. So, I mean, there's all kinds of practical ways to answer the question. One would be pack a picture of your mother, because we both do.
Yeah.
So we kind of like, that's also as a way, they're both not on the planet anymore. So that's another way that can be really sweet and grounding. We set up a little altar in our hotel room effectively. And something just intentional, we don't pray at it always, I don't think you do. But so that's one thing. And the other thing is probably like more pragmatically, like this is kind of funny, but like our ATM card refunds any fees that we incur for the use of any individual machine.
Oh.
So there's a certain financial strategies that can be taken. I know a lot of people utilize miles and points and hotel points and credit card points to help future travel, and we certainly do that too. But we don't have any grand scheme of it. We just have our favorites that we think offer us the best. It kind of like in the background, in the back room, they offer us fair international currency exchange rates, and so that and the right ATM cards and some backup credit cards, and that's like a good financial strategy to take. It's just sort of speaking very practically.
Here's my tip. Go to hotelguys.com and look at all the hotels and places we've stayed. Also, I think, for people who are like, oh God, I just don't want to surf the net. Paul has literally listed, we have photographs, we have what we paid, blah, blah, blah. So it's there. I mean, you could do, okay, I've got like 3 weeks. I want to go to India. Well, here's some regions, because there's still more to see and we're addicted, but that in itself is a starter where you just like, okay, somebody else has done this journey and here it's all free. So hotelguys.com, it's like, okay, figure it out. I tell my sons, my youngest, when we started the Hotel Guys thing, and we have some YouTubes, and he's like, Dad, just remember to be positive. No one wants to hear grumpy old men talk about stuff, I now joke. I go, guys, when you guys are our age and you're not working, just, if we're not on the planet, just keep paying in so that hotelguys.com will continue to give other people the incentive and the dream to think outside your box, rent out your house,
Yeah.
whatever, make it flow in just chasing your own curiosity.
Yeah, like groceries are
Yes.
cheaper in Europe and North America. So like stop paying to the grocery store and
true.
And pass off your utilities to somebody else and collect some rent and until the knees go, we're on the road.
Oh, I love that, you guys. And you are inspiring me so much. I'm like, okay, how long can I rent out my place for? How long can I go around this globe? It's just you guys are amazing and such an inspiration. So again, everybody needs to go to hotelguys.com because your website is like, there's so much there. There's all the countries you've visited, all the excursions you've been on, dating all the way back to 2007. There's like your favorites and all sorts of stuff. So everyone has to go check this out.
The best hotels.
Well, that's nice. I mean, a lot of other blogs kind of put it together and lay it out. We don't do any of this. There's no like marketing links or we don't care about any of that. We've got people, I had an old guy that was like going to Mexico with his wife a couple of winters ago. And he just like sent me an email and I was like helping him plan his trip. And I went to a dentist in Mexico this winter and she ended up not doing a root canal, thank God. But I ended up helping her with her trip to Japan that she just took in June. So, we just do it just for the fun of it. It's a way for our family and friends to know where we are and for us to remember all the places that we stayed. So it's not an exhaustively like engaging, perhaps as some blogs that lay it all out, but it is what it is. And
I mean, just quickly, our time in Rome was like one of those moments where we just like, it was quite hot and we were out and just like soaking in new places because both of us had been there before. I'd been there twice. And so you just give yourself permission to kind of wander into new places. And it seems like around each corner we were like, oh my God, look what we found next.
Well, you know, Paul, about Italy. It's just magic. Magic just happens. So in Athens, we would say don't go to the Acropolis, go to the old ancient agora of Athens. It's much
below.
Yeah, I mean you could do both, but like we
did.
We thought that the agora was actually more sort of like
powerful and
fun.
Yeah, you can feel a bigger presence in space.
So sometimes you just have to go. But hey, as far as your trip goes, my one piece of advice would be do early November, not later.
Okay.
Maybe even the last day. I don't know how long you're going to go, but like the last days of October and the first days of November. How many days are you going to go?
I haven't decided yet. I don't like to limit myself. But I'm hoping to be there at least a week.
See, that inspires me that you think that way because, we would run into Europeans in Central America that were like, we're checking out of the hotel today, but we don't know where we'll be tonight. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't travel that way.
Well, that was me in Spain.
I didn't. Car and drive down, around Lake Arenal or something.
Yeah. Well, I had zero plans when I came to Spain. All I knew was that the 2 weeks that I was away, that 1 week I would be on the retreat. But it was Maven and I decided on the retreat that we were going to spend time together after. And we booked the night before that we were going to go to Sitges. So that's my kind of thing. So looking at I get it where you're like, okay, this period of time I'm going to spend in this part of the world. And then it's like, once I know that's happening and then I get to the details, I figure it out when I get there. And it's also because like,
Well, it was funny because
go ahead.
Paul at one point would just like, okay, we're going to go here. We'll stay here. And I'm like, could you just put that all on our website so I could figure out what's up next? And it became kind of like, okay, just check the site. And, I got to the point where when we did arrive in Puglia and it was the 2-week stay at a delightfully, just brilliantly run naturist resort.
Well, they're French, so we can say it was chic.
We love them.
Yeah,
and again, 2 weeks of where we were just, obviously we didn't have to do laundry. I think we did one load in the 2 weeks we were there. And we did wander to your favorite city and we were mesmerized. And then it's like, okay, Leche.
Leche, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, it's okay to go back and
Yeah,
take
it's okay not to
rest.
do, it's okay not to do all the delightful small
And
villages.
I found this couple. He was Italian. I mean, this is the fun part about naturists, because the people are so fabulously friendly. And
Mm-hmm.
the woman, it's like worldwide, people are stressed. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
she, on day 2, she goes, wow, I had no idea how stressed I was until I got here. And they spent just 1 week there. And I think that's a reminder. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to like hit everything all in 2 days and wear yourself out.
Yeah.
Sometimes just being and breathing.
Absolutely.
Just let things unfold. Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
get it. Well, gentlemen, I have 3 questions to ask. They're going to be lightning round. So first thing that comes to your mind, you can answer. Let's start with this first one. What makes your heart sing?
Getting endless messages from the people I've met worldwide who continue to love us.
Mm.
Yeah, he does such a good job with that. It's incredible. I am so much more the introvert. And I think probably what makes my heart sing, I mean, I have like 5 signs in earth signs.
I make your heart sing, baby.
You do? Well, of course you do. What does make your heart? Well, hey, I mean, that's it. That is the right answer, because, it's not something, we have so many single people that tell us how lucky we are to have each other to do this with.
Yeah.
And we've kind of, over our 16 years together, we've changed. We give each other space. I think we've decided that early on in our relationship.
Yeah.
We aren't always attached at the hip, and we,
Mm.
go through our issues just like everybody else, but we give each other space. But really, the fact that I can do this with the man that I love is really something special.
Mm. Oh, I love
It's
that.
kind of otherworldly.
Oh,
Yeah, I think that's really good.
you guys, that kind of made my heart do a little song.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
I know we do
See,
that.
it's easy. It's easy.
So tell me, on the flip side of that, what makes your heart heavy?
Well, yeah, I think intuiting how much so many people are really struggling right now.
Mhm.
Some of the statistics of 1 in 4 in, I guess, all of North America really suffering from some form of diagnosable mental illness right now. It's kind of bizarre. I can't believe that. I keep hearing that statistic. So, just the struggling that people have. And I think to me, it speaks of a larger issue of really accepting ourselves and loving ourselves.
Mm.
So one way that I can answer in a briefly, which sounds a little bit fanatical, about what makes my heart heavy is that how much people hate themselves.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay, out there in the world, you're probably saying projection. But no, I don't hate myself.
I don't.
But yeah, what makes my heart heavy is kind of like what I mentioned about Myanmar. And it's sort of like, I mean, I would, 20 years ago, I'd yell at the TV news saying, evolve already, for Christ's sake. Like,
Right.
Let's get on with evolving our species. We can do it. Let's collaborate. Let's lead with love. And what makes my heart so heavy is that people, it's like snap out of it. They're not getting the messages. Some of them aren't.
Well, I'll jump in. My heart goes heavy when I see young people who are educated in a sense of hopelessness because they do not have the opportunities to leave their community. They do not have the opportunities to compete against the thousands of people that it might be applying for the same job in the country of India, which comes to mind. So,
or Sri Lanka, or Costa Rica, or just so many places where there's just not opportunity for young people that are well educated, that it's too bad that, like, in the capitalist society, we've thrown away a certain segment of our own population as unemployable. We don't even think about them. But around the world, there's so many people that are not really adequately plugging into this dominant capitalist system, and it's going to come to some kind of a head.
There's such an eagerness to want to better who they are and what their work is. And we often would get asked, can you help us find work in the United States? And, we would refer them to Canada. Let me tell you that. The people aren't quite as stressed out politically as
Well, plus they didn't have 9/11 and closed their borders to so many more of those people, not universally. Right. But when you meet MIT graduates who can't get a work permit after the fact, it's really hard to understand our country's immigration policies right now, when we really need about 400,000 people up and down the quality levels of the economy.
And we've met so many talented and gifted people who would really contribute to that workforce.
So it makes our heart heavy.
Yeah. I mean, Italy is suffering, like many places in Europe, because of the aging populations, that they are now opening and recruiting people. There is a process online, apparently, for people to find work in Italy because of the dying out of their population.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a reflection point in the demographics of many first world countries that realize that they need to come up with an immigration system.
Yeah.
Japan not being one of them. They haven't figured that out culturally yet, because it's not as easy in some societies like it is in our North American societies to embrace the newcomer. Or so we used to think.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. My last question, because I don't want to leave on that heavy note. Where is your heart leading you?
Wow. Wow.
To creating a new universe of my making. My heart is leading me to the creation. Those people out there that are old enough to remember the Seth books, and the one that really talked to me in my early 20s was, create your own reality. And we hear a lot about that, over the years from a variety of sources, but there is really something, and again with the quantum theories, but there is science that leads us to understand that we really do create our own reality. And so I let my heart lead me to creating the world. Really, you are the change, be the change you want to be in the world. All this stuff is used to point to it all points to the same place. And so, but what I also know is that it's leading me to do it with others, because we can't stay by ourselves anymore. I can't stay in my office reading and think that I'm going to really reach the brass ring. We have to do it in this community. And as inane as it might seem, Instagram, Hotel Guys One, Facebook, Global Hotel Guys, the people that we meet, we communicate with people on WhatsApp. We're all percolating a global network of connectivity that ultimately will collectively create a new, and God, why not, better world. We deserve it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, thank you for that.
Well, yeah. Thank you, Paul. I'm going to just keep it really simple and not, I think what comes to me, because I'm having these new, very powerful experiences, I guess I'm just saying, I don't have to know and figure them all out. That I'm vibrating this whole different energy now than I was even before I left my country. And I just keep looking forward to accumulating more and more fresh, mind-blowing experiences that, like, spirit is awake in me in a way that is pretty pretty incredible. And I want more. I want more.
And what I hear you saying is that you set your intention. Sort of when we are like, we travel tomorrow by boat to Foligandros Island. It's like a nice 6-hour little cruise on a ferry boat to get there. And when we leave wherever we are in the mornings like that, we always ritually put an oil that we got in Egypt. Actually, Rich does this. It's so great.
Yes, I remember that.
Set the intention for the day. And I always say something like to the effect, very often, maybe not every time, that we imagine, like in our minds, we imagine arriving safely. So what I hear you say, Rich, with your last remark is that it's about setting the intention about what it is that you want to achieve, which I think, you and I are in this concert of like creating a better world. Why not? We deserve it. We just set the intention. We don't have to worry about the details. That's all mental stuff. And now mental is good. It has its place. It ruled the world for the last Piscean age, but we're not in that age anymore. So let's think about how we might do it different. We're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We're just integrating this heart sort of concept and understand we don't have to understand it all.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Just go for it.
But the intention and arrive safely.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh.
Sounds like
You guys, I love you both so much. And I cannot tell you how blessed I feel to have had the experience that I had with the two of you, meeting the two of you, and now getting to kind of follow along on your journey. And hopefully our paths do cross again at some point, at some place on this planet.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, can we see your gorgeous face again?
Yes, I was just going to say, let's turn on our cameras so that we can all see each other. And everyone that's listening can see. Oh my gosh, you guys, I love you so much. I really do.
Rich just bought me the shirt
and I bought me this shirt, 50% off.
Paul, I love the color. Purple is one of my fave. And this one just compliments you so well. And Rich, I mean,
thank you.
You're a babe no matter what. So you look great. I love the two of you so much. Thank you for being here.
I'm the role model for Hot in 71.
You are.
I love you.
Keep your heart open, brother.
Oh, always will.
Come down to Brazil this winter, but don't plan too far ahead.
No, I'll feel my way through it. I'll let you know. So everyone could go to hotelguys.com, check the show's notes because all of the contact info on how to follow you guys is there. Thank you so much for being here. And I love you both so much. We'll see you again soon.
The Living Spiritfully podcast is a Spiritful production. Executive producer, Paul Galloro. Co-producers, Claudia, Micco, and Catherine Stilo. A big thank you and much love to you, the Living Spiritfully community, for liking, subscribing, sharing, and supporting this podcast.